And our table topics master for today is Suzanne. Suzanne, Allee, please take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. This portion of the meeting, table topics, is what I call a mini impromptu speech. I will ask a question and I will call on someone to respond to that question. So my first question today is, where does happiness come from? Where does happiness come from? Suzanne Leonard.
Well, from within. Sometimes other things that happen without give us a smile or some joy, but happiness is something that we carry with us and we decide inside what makes it happy. For me this morning is watching the cats play in my front yard. You know, everybody now is rested. It's only 81 degrees outside. And so I am receiving some external happiness and joy, but it just depends. You can pick it up and find it any place, anytime, anywhere. It's a choice. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate that. It is a choice. Comes from within your mind. I love that, how the cats and how the weather is a little bit cooler. So I do appreciate your response. Thank you. My next question, what is the goal or purpose of life? What is the goal or purpose of life? Musa.
Thank you, Suzanne. Fellow Toastmaster and morning risers. The goal of life. Well, it depends who you ask first. I think the goal of life, if you are a religious person, it will be to obey God. If you are another kind of scientist, you will say to learn more. If you are, so the answer will be very, very different. For me, the goal of life is to be happy first. As a human being, we are growing in number every day, and I know we are exhausting the resource of our earth, our world, but we could live in peace and harmony. You know, our intelligence should not go to the next level to make us fight each other. So the goal of happiness should be, your goal of life should be happiness. Everybody should be happy, in my opinion. You know, the more we learn, the more we experience, the more we educate ourselves, the more we fight, the more we become human. So the goal of life should be to become human, to become happy. So this world is enough for all of us, and enjoy life. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Musa. I loved your response at the beginning. I like how you said, it depends on who you are, where you're coming from, your religious beliefs. And I love how you shared how the goal of being happy. I think that is so important, how we all want to attain that. So thank you very much. My next question, what is the hardest thing that a person would ever have to do? What is the hardest thing that a person would ever have to do? And this question is for, let's see, who am I going to ask? I am going to ask Werner that question.
For some reason, I knew it was heading my way. Thank you, Suzanne. The hardest thing, certainly for me, and I suspect it is for most people, the hardest thing ever for me is to deal with my inner self. Anyone that has meditated or tried to meditate can recognize that there's a part of us that just does not want to meditate. And also that in a more Western terminology, old habits die hard. Even if they're bad for us, our subconscious just is so tenacious to the status quo that we had grown up with. It is really, really hard to change our attitudes, to change our behaviors, to change our happiness into translation into life, or even our attitude of not wanting to be here into happiness. Happiness is something, as the other two had mentioned, that's very, very important. And I was linking into that this morning as I was trying to get up to get to this meeting at 7 a.m. Of course, I rarely ever get to bed before midnight, and that is a habit from early childhood because I found books, and the books were so interesting I would read until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm supposed to be at school at 8 o'clock. Oh my goodness. Those old habits still are very, very difficult to break. And for some strange reason, I wake up after 5 p.m. So people at work used to go, why are you at work at 10 o'clock at night? Well, because I don't really get started until 5 p.m., even though I show up physically at 8 o'clock in the morning. Dealing with ourselves is, I do believe, for everybody, but certainly for me, the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. Thank you, Suzanne, for that very pointed question. And I hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Werner. I appreciate that response. It is difficult for us to change our behaviors, our attitudes, and certainly choosing to be happy. I appreciate your very deep thoughts for that response. Our next question: how do you know that you are fulfilling your life's purpose? How do you know you're fulfilling your life's purpose? Randy.
Werner, I'm feeling the same thing you were feeling. I somehow knew that bowling ball was coming down and going to strike me right in the middle. Well, my goodness, I talk about purpose a lot. So how do you know? I share quite often that maybe ask yourself this question. If all things were equal and the basics were covered in your life, basics being things like food, shelter, clothing. Now, I think each and every one of you would agree that food, shelter, and clothing are the basics. And if that was covered and you had no problem the rest of your life because you were full, because you had shelter, and you were clothed, what would you be doing with the rest of your life? Because as humans, we always want more. But hopefully we also want to always grow more. So the purpose can sometimes be thought of, what would you be doing with the rest of your life if all of your basic necessities were met? I'm signing off at that point.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that answer. I love that. If all your basic needs were met, what would you want to achieve after that? And that really got me thinking. I know especially, and I'm sure it got all of us, the rest of the group, thinking. I appreciate your response. Zig Ziglar said, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Would one of our guests like to take a stab at that? Dr. Luana Parker, would you like to try that?
Thank
Respond
you,
to that.
Madam
Do you agree with
Tabletop
this?
Master.
Yeah. Do you agree with this quote? Why or why not?
I do agree with the quote because you grow and you change. I look at the different stages of my life, and every time I've learned something, I've become a new and different person along the way. I don't forget the basics of what I learned as a child growing up because it's my foundation, it's who I am, but I grow. And I remember one time when someone asked me, how's your husband doing? And I said, oh, Robert's the same. He's always the same. He's never going to change. And they looked at me and they said, Well, that's too bad. That means he's not growing. At the time, I didn't realize what they were saying to me. But now when I look back, I realize that he basically was the same to the day the Lord called him home. He liked his football, his sports, and he had his friends that he was close to. And that was, for him, that's what made him happy. So I never tried to push him in any other direction. Thankfully, he never tried to tell me what I could or couldn't do. And so I continued to grow, but it didn't change how I felt about my husband, because my husband was his person and I was my person. And I've seen tremendous growth over the years. In fact, since COVID started, I think I probably have grown twice as much as I had before. But that's what you do when life throws lemons at you. You're either gonna fall down and wallow in the muck, or you're gonna get up and find another way to turn that lemon into good lemonade. And that's what I've tried to do with my life. I try to help people, and I try to help myself. And like Susan and the others have said, the first time I read what Lincoln, I believe it was, who said, well, I can't remember the exact quote, but you make the choice of how your day is going to be. You're either going to be happy or you're going to be sad. So now you know why I smile all the time, because I chose I should be happy. And that's who I am, Madam Tabletop Master.
Thank you so much for that response. That was beautiful. Again, it's that theme today. We're on the happiness, and it's what we choose. And it was so beautiful about your husband and how you choose what you become in life. I love how you respond to that. Beautiful response. Why is it so difficult to admit our mistakes and apologize? Why is it so difficult to admit our mistakes and apologize? Dr. Valencia Jones.
Grand Rising, Madam Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters. Why is it so easy? Why is it so difficult to apologize or admit our mistakes? This takes me back to the young Valencia that only spoke Spanish as a child, that walked the grounds of an elementary school, looking like people she couldn't communicate with, and talking with people that she didn't look like, feeling lost, no confidence, alone, in a world full of people that were having fun and passing by. Back then is when I couldn't see my mistakes. I didn't learn from my mistakes. I didn't understand why. And it was difficult to apologize. Once I began speaking English, it brought about a new confidence in me, where I was willing and able to apologize, admit my mistakes. When asked to introduce myself, tell people things that may have been positive about me, in addition to things that I was working on. To answer your question, I feel that it may be difficult for someone to apologize or admit their mistakes because of lack of confidence, lack of self-reflection, or maybe past hurt or trauma that was instilled in them, where they feel lost or alone. And until we learn to look within to find happiness, reflect on the God that created us and who we are in Him, believe our natural talents, see our natural talents, speak with confidence, and know that no one's perfect and we're all going to make mistakes, then we are able to apologize, to mend relationships, break down fences that are blocking us, and move forward. Thank you so much, Madam Table Topics Master, and back to you.
Again, a beautiful response. I appreciate that, how you shared about learning English, and it does so much have to do with our confidence. And I think also fear of rejection and how people are going to respond or react to us. So I appreciate your response. Thank you so much. Do we have time for more questions?
Yes.
Mr.
How about we have a guest named Susan Vanderberg. Would you like to respond, Susan?
Have you heard all the questions, or would you like me to give you another one? Is there one that you heard that you would like to answer?
All of them, but it surprised me.
What is the meaning of life? In your
God.
opinion, what is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life, world peace. That's kidding. We hear that a lot, right?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Vanderberg. I ask myself that question every day because I've gone through so much. And then when I say I've gone through so much, what does that really mean? And I have to pause a moment when I ask myself that, because other people would say I've gone through so much, but then their level of gone through so much is different from my level. I know that for sure. My level was, I was in Vietnam. I was born there at the end of the Vietnam War. My grandfather was a wealthy entrepreneur, owned property, businesses all throughout southern China and Vietnam. And then at the end of the war, the communist government took over the entire family's properties. So overnight, my grandfather became poor. So all the servants, all 8 of them, had to be let go. And then we had to end up escaping from Vietnam. And the only way we could escape was from my mother's mother having saved up enough gold so that we could all board a cruise ship, and then we would escape after spending our last meal with our loved ones at the pier. And that cruise was not a guarantee for life or even opportunity, but we somehow made it. We were stranded at sea. We were robbed by pirates lots of times. I would just say lots right now because I'll get into that detail later in the book. But we were robbed multiple times, left at sea, stranded in the Black China Sea, and were finally rescued by a Malaysian sea liner and got dragged into the Malaysian border, or we became refugees there. So life, the meaning of life is what we want to make of it. And we can say we've gone through a lot and wallow on that, or we can say we've gone through a lot and go forward and move ahead and get back, or even achieve more than what we have lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Is that your name is Susan? I had goosebumps as you were responding to the question, and what a beautiful answer to the meaning of life and all
Thank
your
you.
family went through. I'm just picturing the pirates being robbed and finally being rescued, and all that you went through was, again, just gave me goosebumps and a chill right down my spine. Beautiful response, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Beautiful response. Thank you so much. Do we have time for another question, or how are we with time?
Suzanne, maybe one more. We have a guest, Nicolette Smith,
Okay.
if she might want to participate.
Oh, yes. Would you like to participate?
Sure.
Answer, please respond to the question. Where does happiness come from?
Madam Table Topics Master, where does happiness come from? Happiness comes from a sense of inner peace, a sense of the divinity that lives within the imagination and the spirit of a human being. Happiness is a state of mind. It is the ability to think happy, positive thoughts, but it also can be a happy place, somewhere that you go, somewhere that you frequent, somewhere that you visit. Happiness could be just a word to many, but to me, happiness is what's happening in our life and what's going on. Happiness right now is the breath that I breathe. Happiness is the joy that we live out when we're amongst those that we love. Happiness is a sense of inner peace. Madam Table Topic Master, happiness is what you choose to make it to be.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And inner peace, again, it is what we make of it. I appreciate your response, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. This completes our table topics for today. I appreciate everybody's participation, and I return contact to our Madam Toastmaster.